What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Tribe of Runners podcast. I'm your host, Liz Myers, and today we're doing a coaching corner episode. We have not done one of these in a very long time because, well, we've just been busy girls, I guess. But Christie Brinker is back on the podcast to talk all things coaching. And today we wanted to bring up the big topic that Christie and I are both racing No Business 100 Miler in October, and we're doing this together. So, Christy, thank you so much for being on the podcast and, suffering with me to get us through this episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking all about No Business.
Yeah. And so I figured we'll start out and go and give a little bit of a backstory on why we're doing this, how we're doing this, because I've told a few people, I'm sure you've told a few people, but I don't know if everyone really knows. So what exactly are we doing when we're going out to run No Business 100 Miler?
So it's kind of interesting because I feel like I remember you and I were on a call and you mentioned that you were thinking about signing up for No Business. And I was like, yeah, me too, because No Business has been on my radar for before I was even an ultra runner, because there was some random YouTube guy that I followed who did this race and it looked brutal. And I remember thinking, I'm never going to do that. And you know how it is. You say that about a race and then you're signed up for it next you know it. So I did Rim to River last fall, and everybody there was telling me, yeah, you need to do No Business. There was even a guy there who had a No Business tattoo on his leg, and I ran with him for quite a while. So I don't know if I'll end up with a tattoo after I run it, but yeah, so we just kind of both came to each other already thinking about doing this race individually. And what I think is really funny is there's not a lottery for No Business, but it sells out almost instantly. So we both had to get signed up pretty quickly for it, and luckily we did both get in. But I remember telling Joe Corcione, who, Joe from Everyday Ultra, who coached both of us. And I remember telling him, I was like, yeah, me and Liz are both doing No Business. And he asked me, he's like, are you doing it together, like racing it together? And at that point, we hadn't actually had the conversation of if we were going to race it together. And I was like, you know what, Joe? It's like, I don't really know. We haven't talked about it, but we just keep talking about doing the race together, sort of. So I think we are, but we probably should have that conversation. And at that point, we hadn't even met in person or ran together. But luckily, we went to the Desert Peak Ultra, and we finally had the conversation and decided that we basically made a pact that we're going to try to run together. Because if you think about it, running a 100 miler with somebody else is going to be tough, because most likely you're both going to feel different ways at different times. And so we made a pact that if one of us is on the struggle bus and the other's feeling really good, we're not going to hold each other back. But we're going to try it.
Yeah. And it is so funny. I remember us talking, we're like, yeah, we should do it together. Let's both sign up. We're going to run this 100. And I remember talking to Kristen, and she's like, so you guys going to run it together the entire time? I'm like, I don't think we've actually talked about it, but I think so. And I mean, if something happens, I'm sure we'll just figure it out. I don't know. Which is so funny to think we low-key didn't talk about it, but we just kept talking about us doing this race together, which is so funny. But I didn't even really think about it. We actually hadn't met in person or even ran together. And we were already yeah, we're doing this together no matter what, We already signed up and everything. So super funny to think about. And then obviously we've met, and it is crazy to think how long we've known each other, and we have just literally met for the first time, the beginning of this year, which is too funny. But the other part about this race that you and I have contemplated on, is this really true if we're doing it together, is running pacerless, crewless. And people call this running a race screwed. And I'd love to hear your opinion, because I think we're about on the same page of what this means, but what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, so we kind of came to the agreement that we weren't going to have pacers pretty early on. But the question really was the crew portion of it. And for me, I've survived off drop bags before, and I feel like it's pretty easy. But you were kind of going back and forth because you had a family member who really wanted to crew you. And I remember recently telling you that I was on a long run and I had this thought of how fun it would be if it was just you and I, like we didn't see anybody else out there, but it was just you and I trying to get each other through this 100 miler while like one of us is probably hallucinating, the other one is trying to keep that other person alive. And I told you that, and you were pretty pumped on that once I told
Yeah.
you that story.
Yeah, I don't, and yeah, I was on the fence. My mother, who comes out and cruise and pace, or not paces, crews me all the time. If she was ever to pace me, that would be hilarious, by the way. But she comes out to crew me all the time, and it's just awesome. Like, I love my mom to come out there, and I was like on the fence about it. And I told you, like, I don't know, like, I feel bad if I tell her not to come because she wants to come. And, I do enjoy her being out there, but I'm like, the more I think about it, like, I just want to go do this solo. Nothing, nothing against her, nothing against anything. And then you like talked about that. I'm like 100%, like I'm sold. You talked me into it. It's done deal. So I'm very excited to go do this together. I think we'll have fun. And we even low key mentioned that we're going to try to record us like having crazy experiences out there and then posting all about it. So I'm very excited to see how it goes. And I think the next like real big question I have for you is like, what's your goal? We kind of talked about this, and you told me you had a time goal, which I was genuinely surprised about, only because we have not talked about this. So, Christy, what is your goal for No Business?
Yeah, so, when we've talked about this, we have kind of said we both really just want to finish. And I still like that's definitely still probably my A goal is just to finish it. It is a tough race. And this is coming from somebody who raced Leadville for, coming from sea level. I actually might be more scared of No Business. And I think part of it is the terrain. It's a lot of, it's a lot less sustained climbs, and like sustained climbing I'm a little bit better at that. This is a lot of up and down and rollers and, routes and technical Tennessee type trails, which is exciting. But yeah, definitely, I still definitely would be very stoked on just finishing and having that as a goal. But there is a part of me that has a goal of 30 hours because I've yet to finish a 100 miler in more than 30 hours. So I'm like, well, I just feel like I need to keep that streak alive, which I think a 30-hour finish here is actually kind of difficult. What do you think?
So after like obviously like signing up for the race, like I think I've told you at least, I did a huge dive into YouTube. I know you have as well, but I watched tons of YouTube videos. Like that's what I did on my 50K on the treadmill, is watched a whole bunch of No Business YouTube videos. And I was seeing a lot of people going after like a 30 or 24-hour race goal or a finish goal. And I was in my head, I'm like, 24 hours, that's impressive. Just because I heard genuinely everyone that I've heard talk about this race says how hard it is, but how amazing it is at the same time. But it's a very hard 100. So I was thinking around 30 to 32 hours. With in mind, I will tell you, like, I have no time goal for this. I honestly just want to go out and have like the most fun, because I had such a horrible time in my last race, which obviously I got injured at and haven't ran a race, like a legit race since then. So for me, honestly, it's just like going out there, not having any ankle issues happen. Obviously, like a little soreness I expect, but to go out and have a hell of a time, die a little inside, and then finish. And I've never run with no crew. I've always had crew. Even like a local 50K, like someone has come out there. I wouldn't say like gone to an aid station, but like bit at a head. Like I've done a lot of looped courses where they've always been there. So for me, I'm like, I want to do this completely. Like, that idea of doing something with just drop bags is a huge growth moment for me as a coach, to be 100% honest, just to know that like I have tons of athletes that do it all the time, and now I'll be able to share an experience because I've done it before too.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to do for sure. And definitely as coaches, like it's something you want to do. I've done 100K completely screwed before. And the last 100 miler I did with no crew technically. I did have a pacer, and that pacer saved my life. Sometimes, that's how it goes. But yeah, that's super interesting to think about. And also like it's kind of like weird to think we're not going to have pacers, but if we're both together, then like, are we pacing
Yeah.
each other? And then I also said too, like, well, if we didn't tell anybody that we were planning to do this together and we just ran the whole thing together, we would still say we did it without pacers, you know? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. But I also had the thought that, you know, it sounds like a lot of fun to do this race together. And like one of us will be in a high and one will be at a low at like 3 a.m. But probably what's going to happen is we're both just going to feel like shit at the exact same time. And we're just going to be bitching to each other. It's
Yes, yeah. I
going
was
to be a real
thinking,
bad time.
yeah, I was honestly like, before I was like, it's gonna be Chrissy's in a high, I'm in a low, she pulls me out, and then it, switches. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, no, we're both gonna be miserable, but like, F this race. Why did we think we could do this, or why did we want to do this? And it's just gonna dive us into a deeper hole. But we will come out because you always come out of a hole in ultra running. But yeah, it is. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. And no matter what, we both just want to finish and have a good time, which I think is really, really cool. And it's really exciting to just experience this. I can honestly say I never thought I would ever sign up and want to race 100 miles with another person, but I'm like very pumped about this. So it is a new thing, but I'm very excited.
Yeah, I love the 100-mile distance. So far, it's my favorite of all just because you experience so many things. It's like, you know, it's like a whole different life like in a day, you know, in 100 miles. And it will be a different experience because I've been really lucky in all my hundreds. I've had a pacer for like the same pacer for a very long portion of like these races. Like typically my pacers stay with me for 30 miles
Mhm.
for like no one's ever going to sign up to pace me. Now that I've said that, they're gonna be like, no, she's definitely abusing those people. But you know, they love it. Probably because I'm just such a riot at, you
Yeah.
know, 3 a.m. after being like 70 miles in, but who knows?
Yeah. Oh, it'll be interesting. And with like all things considered, do you have any like you mentioned the race having a little bit of fear because of hearing how difficult it is. Like where and how has training kind of changed for you recently? Because we'll kind of get into this. Like we want to break down your training versus my training because it is very similar, but we also are training very differently at the same time. And you just completed 100 not too long ago. So kind of explain to us like what training looks like recently, and I guess maybe start from the beginning of like you just ran 100 not too long ago.
Yeah, so I did Kettle Moraine 100 miler middle of June. So I'm literally exactly 2 months post 100 miler. And one thing we're going to talk about this more later in this episode, but Liz and I both self coach, meaning I coach myself, Liz coaches herself. And this is my first 100 miler that I've coached myself for. And honestly, like the training leading up to it was great, but I didn't feel so great on race day. And, you know, sometimes you just have those bad races. I made it through though. And my goal with self coaching a lot of times has been looking at what I've done in the past that's worked really well, and then maybe tweaking it a little bit to see how can I push myself. And that's kind of the theme that I've been using for self coaching. It's kind of like, let's fly a little bit closer to the sun and see what happens. And sometimes you get burned, and I may be a little bit burned currently, but ultimately, after a 100 miler, you know, there's going to be a recovery period. And I find it's never the same. You know, from one race to the next, it may be completely different, and there may be absolutely no reason for that. That's just how our bodies work, unfortunately. And so it's kind of like, you know, sussing that out a little bit after the race and taking like the recovery and then seeing how I feel. And ultimately, things were tracking like pretty decently after the race. Like I was pretty much where I was expecting to be. And I decided the thing that I wanted to tweak, you know, through this training block was putting some intensity in a little bit sooner than what I probably normally would have. And unfortunately for me, when I decided to do that, it was also a heat wave where it's been like a 110-degree heat index. So that didn't go so well. And especially after like, to me, a mid-June race is really hard because you don't really get to train in the heat leading up to the race. And then like it might be really hot on race day, which I was fine heat wise because I did do like a heat adaptation protocol. But post race, I wasn't exercising in the heat. So I kind of feel like I was almost starting over in a heat wave, which is terrible. anybody who knows, like right now, who's been through these heat waves, because we're on like our third one
Hmm.
of the year. It's been brutal. So I've been like that's been like a complication to my training, because when I'm pushing myself, outside of what I've done in the past, something I've told myself is I've got to monitor that, and anytime I feel like I'm overdoing it, to pull back, which I'm completely fine with doing. If you're gonna try stuff, you gotta, our favorite phrase, fuck around and find out. And sometimes you find out and you gotta readjust to that. So I kind of, struggling doing these intervals, struggling in the heat, and did a deload week, a pretty aggressive deload week, because I was feeling pretty cooked by the time I got around to my long run of that deload. And, after the deload, I was like, okay, we should be refreshed. We should get back into it. And so I got back into it with some less intense intervals, but it still wasn't going well, still wasn't trending well. That was the biggest thing for me, is watching my performance week over week actually getting worse. And typically in training cycles, you're accumulating some acute fatigue, and you do that week over week, and then you eventually deload because you don't want it to accumulate too much, and then you come back fresh and you do it all over again. That's pretty much what training is. But ultimately, I was accumulating fatigue, and it was never going away. It was never getting better, essentially, and my performance was just decreasing, which has pretty much led me to, I'm calling it a mid-season break, where I'm basically just not running at all this week. This would have been like, instead of doing like just a deload week, I'm doing a much more aggressive deload week, where I'm just taking it insanely chill over the next couple days, and just trying to get fully recovered. And again, like it's been a fun experiment, and I was willing to test things out. But now I'm like, okay, that was great. Now we're gonna have to recover and just hope to get nice and rested, and that way I can start building back up.
Yeah. And I love, well, A, I love that you're doing this and smart enough or healthy, like knowledgeable enough to know that like things were not going the way that you felt they should have as a coach, knowing that like we're self-coaching. Because Christy and I talk about this all the time. Like it is kind of hard to self coach yourself because you second guess every single thing you do. And maybe not every single coach does this, but Christy and I do. And so like we'll give ourselves a workout and we're like, but is this a little too easy or is this a little too hard? And then we're doing the workout and I'm sure Christy, I'm speaking for myself 100%. Like I know sometimes during a run, I'm like, this sucks so bad. Like I shouldn't have pushed myself this much. And then I finish it and I get done. I'm like, oh, that was great. I don't know. Like I'm completely fine, So it's like that constant battle of like, is this enough? Is this too much? But also being smart enough and aware enough to know that like I probably pushed myself a little bit too much. The heat index, which we had, you have no control over. So even if it would have been a different time of year and you would have done that, there's a high likelihood that you wouldn't have experienced such, like intense workout more or less because of how bad the heat was during that time frame, So with all that being said, huge lesson learned. You're taking a step back and taking a full blown like deload, like extreme deload, I guess we can call this, where you just like take your time and rest and recover and come back. So when you come back, what's your approach in coming back? Like the next few weeks up until we get ready for we have our training camp middle of September.
Yeah, my goal right now is just to get to the point where I feel really rested. And there's a couple of things that I'm monitoring. I'm really just kind of monitoring my fatigue day to day, and watching. I want to see that improve massively. And once I get back into it, which I'm not really putting a solid timeline, like I haven't, of course, I have an ideal in my mind where it's like, okay, I'm hoping to run by Tuesday, but I want to just make sure that I'm getting what I really need to get out of this, because it's only going to benefit my training going forward. So if you rush it, then I'm going to end up in the same boat, and that's absolutely not what I want. Because right now, me doing this at this point in time is not going to cause me. It's not going to cause me to, miss anything on my race. But if I don't do this properly and I continue to push, then I'm going to be risking the race at that point, and that's there's no reason to do that. So I'm going to take it super easy returning back, and just kind of like suss it out day after day, make sure I'm recovering from all my runs like I'm supposed to. and just kind of gradually increase. We do have a training camp coming up. So my goal right now is just to, safely make sure that the volume feels good. I don't have any injuries or niggles or anything like that. And that's one thing that I'll say is that a lot of times when you push a little bit too hard, an injury or a niggle is going to usually get you a lot of times first, because that's just, what we deal with running.
Mhm.
But I don't, that was another thing. Like, it's been really hard for me to kind of realize that I needed to pull back because I had so many other indicators that looked fine or felt good. But yeah, that's the biggest thing is just I want to make sure that I'm safely building back so that I can have a great training camp. That's like my focus right now.
Yeah, yeah. And 100% super, super smart. And I'm going to kind of take it back. Like you mentioned, more or less the main goal isn't like getting back to running as soon as possible. Like everyone needs to hear that because us as obsessed, crazy ultra runners, like that's always our first, like, I just need to get back to running. I just need to get back to running. When in reality, like your training hasn't felt the greatest. You've dealt with super deep fatigue and something just isn't clicking. So take the time off, genuinely listen to your body for the next, week, few days, going back into running where you decide like, yes, I'm ready to come back, or no, maybe I need to give myself a couple more days. And how important that is because there's so many, and we've talked about this a little bit, but there's so many times where like you just cannot not run mentally. Like in your brain's like, oh, you're just being a little bitch, like you're fine. And we've actually talked about this like the other day. You were like on the fence, like, am I being too much of a little bitch or am I okay? Am I, it's, everyone struggles with that. So like really taking the time to listen to yourself and make sure you're coming back into it with the approach, with the right mindset, knowing that like you want to just be ready to run 100 miles. You don't need to get back into running as fast as possible, which is majority of the time what all of us do, sadly.
One thing I'll say about that too, and this is I feel like I have a really good mental side of this, and it's you got to look at the recovery as part of the training, because if you look at the recovery as, oh, I'm getting less fit or I'm not, you know, carrying the boats or whatever you want to use, it's never going to, you're always going to have a problem. You're always going to struggle to properly recover. But if you think like, okay, my training right now calls for recovery and the best thing I can do for training is to recover, then it, to me, it becomes way easier to be able to let myself truly rest.
Oh yeah. And there's so many, there's so much we could say on that, but we don't have to go into that too much, but it is so true. So many people forget or don't realize the importance of recovery. And that doesn't mean just like a rest day during the week, one day a week. Like sometimes it's having a more intense deload week in training because you're just really, really fatigued, or you had a super stressful week or something of that nature. But yes, super, super important. And I think it's something that is underlooked all the time.
Yeah, for sure. And it's good to think about it too, because sometimes people will just have their training like laid out on their calendar. Like if you're being coached, or if you're just doing your own training, either, and you wake up and maybe you slept for 2 hours because of outside life stress, and you wake up and maybe you have VO2 max intervals and you're completely trashed, and it's because it's on the calendar. You're like, I've got to do this anyways, even though like you're probably not going to actually get the benefit out of that workout. You're just going to put yourself in a deeper hole. Sometimes you have to also be, aware of, maybe I don't need to do this just because it's on my calendar. Like maybe I need to reach out to my coach and say, hey, this is what happened. Because I will guarantee you, if you tell your coach, I slept for 2 hours, they're going to be like, okay, let's move these intervals to a different day. You can go do an easy recovery run.
Yeah, and that's so true. And I know for myself, like I try to tell everyone, like it is literally day by day sometimes in training. And I mentioned to you that's why, like, when I originally went to self coaching, I was dealing with my ankle injury. So there'd be some days where my ankle just hurt so bad that I wouldn't run, and then there'd be some days that it kind of felt okay. I would go run, and then like 20 minutes, it would start to hurt. And just being aware and being you know having the knowledge that I did, I was like, I don't want to push it. So I need to cut this 40-minute run down to 20 minutes. And it came to a point that, I sat down with Joe Corsiano, my coach at the time, and I was like, listen, I think I'm going to stop coaching. And I felt like I was like breaking up with him. And he's like, you 100% can. Like, you know what you're doing. But for me, I enjoyed having someone, show me, like, tell me, do my training. I didn't want to think about it. It was on my training. It was on my, like, there was somewhere where it told me what to do. But with dealing with so much with my own injury, that's why I went to self coaching. And I've mentioned to you, like, I enjoy it because I have the ability just to like genuinely listen to my body and I don't feel like I'm bothering someone. So as a coach, I've really learned that like I am pressing to all of my athletes now. Like, you could text me anytime. Like, if we need to make adjustments, we'll make adjustments because it is so important to really listen to your body. Like you mentioned, like if someone only got 2 hours of sleep, there's absolutely no way I'm going to want someone to do intervals. You know what I mean? Like, I want them to either take a rest day or do a 30, 45, maybe hour recovery run because of the stress of life outside. And like, that is something that I feel like a lot of people don't take advantage of as having a coach is they're just like, oh, well, it's on the schedule. I need to do it today, even though no, it's not always like that. But yeah, it is just that management of trying to make sure that you really listen to your body and are doing the right things. And as a coach and, seeing people do it and then myself, I second guess myself all the time right now of like, oh, am I being a little bit of a bitch or am I okay to run this? And, I've told Chrissy, I'm like, I struggle so much with that. And I don't even know why, because I end up just doing the workout. But the one thing that's nice is like, for me personally, right now, I'm doing a lot of treadmill runs. So we've talked about this. Like, Christy's outside all the time. She's doing, I think, majority of your runs outside. Some of them on the treadmill, like with some speed work. But 90% of my runs are on a treadmill. Typically, I've made a rule for myself that like one day a week I have to get outside because it does help with my ankle. Honestly, the instability of trails will only strengthen my ankle as long as I'm smart, and I just enjoy being outside. But the convenience of running on a treadmill is so nice for me. Bit of a crazy life. School just started, so it's making it even busier. So just being able to hop on the treadmill, I don't have to worry about travel time or anything like that. It's been really nice. But as someone who morning of sometimes I'm changing my mind on a treadmill run compared to going outside, I it's nice for me because I can just switch it on my own. Like, I update it, and that's I told Christy. I was like, it is really nice because I don't have to stress trying to let someone know that I need to do this. Like, I just do it. But as a coach, I am trying to always tell people like that's what I am here for. So even though I'm telling you like, oh, it's so nice that I can do this on my own and I have the ability to do this, but like that's what we're coaches and that's what we're here for. So it's that weird balance. But me being someone that just hates bothering people, it's just nice to do it myself.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because so you do all but one run on
Yeah.
the treadmill. I do all of my runs but one on the treadmill. So we're like complete opposites on that. So that's so funny. But no, obviously I'm also not a treadmill hater. I've also done a 50K on a treadmill, not
Mhm.
as much vert as you, but I love the treadmill because especially for intervals, like hill repeats, oh my God, it's I don't have a mountain anywhere. So for me, it's super clutch. But I totally get it's what you say about it being like super efficient. And yeah, and like in the heat too, it's like let's escape the heat and actually have some better workouts because heat is a huge stress on your body. And it's gonna make your intervals like that much harder. So if you could do them on a treadmill and get out of the heat and actually have like a really good workout, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, that's like been one of my biggest things recently. And everyone gets so like, "Oh, well, I don't like the treadmill like you do." And I'm like, listen, don't be judging me because I enjoy a treadmill. But I've been encouraging people to get on the treadmill a little bit more recently just because of how hot it's been. Not because I'm like wildly obsessed with the treadmill right now, but because of how hot it's been. It's just been such a stressor. And, just being able to take out some stress and training from the heat by running on a treadmill, I think is a huge benefit. It has been for me. Like, I remember a long time ago, just training outside in the heat all of the time. And I don't think there's any way I could do it right now and be as efficient as I am in my training, and especially because right now I've been lifting a lot. I don't think there's any chance I'd have the energy to lift and run if I was running outside, just to be 100% honest with you.
Yeah, so my treadmill is in the garage, which is not heated or cooled. So I'm basic when I do my treadmill runs, I'm basically running outside. So there's no escape for me. And my gym is in the garage as well. So I'm like just I'm sweating to death right now. But so talking about all that, and you've kind of mentioned, you've obviously been spending more time on the treadmill, but what has your training been like coming back from the ankle? Like obviously with the ankle, you did a lot of easy base building, just getting everything, back in order. What have you been doing beyond that?
Well, after the whole base was built, so I did take a lot of time off. I tried to look back and see. I think it was 3 to 6 weeks that I did not run. Um, sprained the ankle. I kept training, then re-rolled it, went and actually saw a PT, and they're like, "Hey, no running." And I was like, "Oh, for how long?" And he's like, "Well, I'll see you in 2 weeks, and then we can reassess." And I'm almost positive it was 3 weeks after that that I actually started running. So it was about 5 weeks. Um, and then a huge build. Like I just wanted to get easy, slow miles. I didn't care about the effort, or I did care. Let me say easy. I wanted it to be easy, super easy, but like I wasn't trying to get any intensity or anything like that. And then the beginning of the year was coming around. So I hurt myself October of no, August. Yeah, August of last year. And then I think, it was around end of December I finally started running, or I'm sorry, beginning of December-ish, August. I don't even remember. It was a long time ago. It all blurs together. But I started running and having like a decent base. So I was going into 2026 this year, and I was like, what goal can I do that won't get me into a race or like make me ramp up training way, way, way too much? And so I was like on the fence. I couldn't figure it out. I had a gentleman on my podcast that had a crazy vert challenge. I'm like, ooh, this would be kind of entertaining. Like I just trained a whole bunch of vert because I was training for the Barkley Fall Classic in H9. So I was like what would be hard for a Florida person to do vert wise? And then I'm like, oh well, I like to do weird things like to make them match. So I was turning 35. So I was like, maybe I'll do like, could I do 350,000? Like that's a lot. I don't think I could do that. The buddy that had did it last year did I can't remember exactly what he did, but I think it was 500,000 if I remember correctly. I can't remember. It was a lot. And I was just like, there's no way I could do that. Absolutely not. So the idea of 35 or 350,000 really piqued my interest. I boiled it down to roughly, it's about 900 feet a week. So
You
I
mean
instantly
9,000?
not oh yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
9,000. Yes, 9,000. 9,000 a week. So when I tried to like figure that out, I was like, well, to start, I can do a lot of power hiking because I didn't want to start running verty things and jeopardize anything with the ankle. So I'm like compromising with myself if that's even possible. Like, could I really get in some so like I thought all about, I'm like, you know what? I just need to do it. I'm thinking about things too much. So that's been like the main, what I've been doing for the past 6-ish months is really working on trying to get roughly weekly 9,000 feet of gain. But in the midst of all of that, my fitness started getting better. I initially started to work on vert and just endurance. So I was just doing treadmill runs, keeping it as simple as possible with being on the treadmill and not hurting the ankle too much. So I would do some hill work, but nothing like above a 10% unless I was power hiking, but that was really, really, really slow. And then after I started to feel better and the ankle was handling the vert, I started doing some speed work. So I did a decent block of VO2 in threshold, and I'm technically like still kind of in threshold, but I've had some like crazy things happen in life where it was just super stressful. I did a 50K on the treadmill with 10,000 feet of gain, and I was like kind of stepping away from the threshold. So I'm only doing one a week right now, and it's been working out, but just trying to manage that as a runner, not doing too much. So in the grand scheme of things, like I've done your traditional type block where I did a little bit of VO2 work, I did a little bit of threshold work, and now it's just truly continuing the vert challenge with trying to get all this vert in. So like my training has looked tremendously different than yours, and not in a comparison of like what we're doing for this race, but just in like you just ran a 100 miler. Like I mean I just did a 50K with 10,000 feet of gain on the treadmill for a reason. But aside from that, I haven't raced in a hot ass minute.
Are you worried about that at all?
Ooh, like the jitters of the race or like completing a race.
Both.
Mm. I think I am nervous for the race only because like it's been over a year since I towed the line, and the last time I towed the line 3.5 miles in did not go very well. So honestly, like that is in the back of my mind, and knowing how technical this race is, gives me a little bit of panic about the ankle because no matter what, I'm going to favor it for the first probably 2 to 3 races. It's just that was a brutal like injury recovery and all of that. So a little bit there, but I'm genuinely really excited to race again.
I
And
need
I think that, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I need you to know that if you twist your ankle, I will leave you for dead.
I will
No,
accept that, honestly.
I'll I'll help you tape it or something, but I mean, if your ankle is just, screwed out there, I don't know what else we can do.
No, if it happened, I would just sit down and be like, "Go on." Like, keep
Yeah.
going. Like, I'm done.
And that's something to say too, that if you're ever gonna do a race like this with somebody else, it's really good to be like very upfront about like what you're willing to do, because you don't want to be in the moment and some, like, let's say something does happen to one of us, and knowing like, I can't believe she left me, like, and then being
Yes.
mad at each other. And I think it's easier for us because we're coaches and we would never want to sacrifice, the other person's race. Like, we're definitely going to feel that way, but sometimes it can get emotional out there. I don't think that's us, but it's still something, if you're considering ever doing this, to think about.
Yeah, and I've had athletes run races together. I've had, like, brother and sister, and I told them, like, "You have to have that conversation now. Like, what are
Hmm.
you guys going to be okay with? If you have to separate, what's that gonna look like?" And it is just smart to do, especially, like, if you know the person that you're running is this isn't for either of us, but, like, maybe one of them is a little more emotional. So, like, taking into account, like, it's not personal, but if you don't do well or if I'm not doing well, like, we can leave. I think putting all of that out beforehand is so important, and we've done that 100%. But yeah, if something does happen to the ankle, you have every right to just keep going, and I will. Maybe I'll like come pace or no, I can't. I can't pace you obviously, but I don't think I would come help crew either because I want you to do it screwed. So I would
Oh,
just
thanks.
go sit in the car.
That's rough.
But I
But
am
that's not
very
gonna
excited to
happen.
race.
That's
No.
not gonna happen. If it does, though, I'm gonna be like, bitch, you shouldn't have ran so many fucking treadmill miles.
But the treadmill is not like the listen, I fell off the treadmill one time, but that was like a stupid mistake on my end, and it didn't hurt the ankle. Oh, man. But yeah, it'll be fun, and I am genuinely excited to race. Even though, like, I tell this to a lot of people, I think I've told you this, like, I hate racing. Like, I love training. I love
Same.
all the work. I like having things to, like, do and a challenge, and I do enjoy racing, but, like, the anxiety, the planning, the, like, nervousness, and then it starts and you just wanna, like, sprint and you're like, "Oh, wait, I have 100 miles to go." Like, I hate that shit.
I have to admit, I love the training. It's part of the reason why I became a coach, but I don't hate the racing. To me, the training is a lot more fun for some
Mhm.
reason. I don't know. I just like the day-to-day process of it, but I do love the 100-mile experience that you get out there.
Mm.
But do you feel like, cuz personally, a 100-mile, like, you have to be ready for that. You can't just do, unless you're Andy Glaze, you can't just go and do a 100-miler for fun. You got to be ready to go to the depths of your soul and to put it all out there. So have you thought about that? Like, have you been thinking if you're ready to do that again? Are you excited to do that again? Are you scared?
Oh, I'm so excited. And I think a lot of people know, and I'm pretty sure you know, the last like experience I had with that was my 200, and that was a doozy. Like, I still don't know how to explain exactly how I felt at the end of that 200, and it was just such a mind fuck to be 100% honest. Where I 100% want to go do more 200s. You know what I mean? And if I look back, like I'd need a little bit of redemption, you know what I mean? Like, and is it in this 100? Maybe, maybe not. But like, I am excited to fuck around and find out there on the trail, but with asterisks of like, I'm not going to injure myself, fuck around. But I just want to go out there and really struggle to be 100% honest and like get through it and know like, hey, I'm still a badass or a bad bitch, I should say. Just because I feel like, as silly as it sounds, like I know the DNF was not because of me being a little bitch. Like I genuinely jacked up my ankle, but it's still hard. And it's still, there are times where I'm like, "Ah, if I could have just finished that fucking race, like, hear me out. It would have been a long, long race. I probably would have got dropped for time cutoffs because I could barely hobble along. But, I'm just excited to go out there, meet all of the things that I need to meet and experience, and then finish for sure.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. Are you excited? I know this is like you just came out of a race, you're going through a little bit, but like how are you feeling about no business and everything with it?
No, I'm pretty excited. Part of it is I love an October race. That alone excites me. Like to me, especially in the Southish area, October's a great time to do a race. I'm excited for this one because I have been watching. I've watched so many documentaries on this prior to ever deciding that I wanted to actually do this race. Prior to actually being an ultra runner, for some reason, I've watched a bunch of docs on it, and I don't know. Like I definitely think that for me, at least on the 100-mile distance, I love doing it, but you have to have a gap between them. You know, like after doing kettle, it's like my brain definitely needs some time to recoup. So if this race was next month, I would be feeling a little bit up, a little bit, like, oh, this is going to be hard. But because it's 2 months away, I feel like I got a little bit more time, and I am excited about it. And I think part of it is we've got this awesome training camp coming up, and that I love a training camp. A training camp is, if the training is the most fun, I feel like the training camp is like right up there because you get to just have like a big super compensation weekend. We're going to be on the course. It's a course I've never been on before. I've never seen. So lots of things to look forward to.
Yeah. And I will say I am very excited for our training camp as well. And to be 100% honest, I've never had a training camp for a race where I've ran on course.
Oh,
I have done like compensation big weeks. I do them quite a bit. And I did a really big training weekend for across Florida. And I will be 100% honest, like when I got done, I was like, I'm unstoppable. I'm going to demolish this 200 miler. So I hope to experience the same feeling. And even if it's not bad, like I know we're going to, or not as good, I know we're going to learn a lot and get to see a lot of the course. And I think that is very important to me for this race because of how hard it's going to be. You know what I mean? Like I live in Florida. Yes, I have my Florida mountain, but it is nothing in comparison to what this race is going to be. And I think getting a little bit of course recon will help me realize like what I need to change and adapt for my training to make sure I'm feeling like super confident for the race.
yeah, for sure. And like to give you a perfect example, because I've done two training camps like on course for different races. And for example, when I did Leadville, the big crux of that course is Hope Pass. And I saw the backside of Hope Pass and it literally like changed my whole thought process of training. I realized this is way harder and more technical than I expected. And I had a couple weeks after my training, it left in my training after the training camp. So it's like, okay, well, now I kind of know I'm going to do a little bit more steeper power hiking and run on a little bit more technical trails just because, like, I felt so confident with everything else that it's like, okay, this is the last little piece to, work on in my training leading up to the race. And the best thing about training camps is how confident you typically do come out the other end, hopefully. At least all of mine have been like that, where I'm just like, yeah, I'm so ready to do this thing. And to me, you have ideally you want to do it with a couple weeks left in your training so that you can, take what you learn there and apply it to the training and benefit from it. But it also motivates me for that last little block, especially where you might be feeling the fatigue, you might be getting tired. Sometimes you hear people say, I'm just ready to do the race. I
Mhm.
feel like that training camp, it kind of like gets you like ready. It's like, okay, I'm going to put in the final touches to this training so that I come in exactly where I want to be for the race.
For sure. And I will say I have had a few friends experience like really bad training camps where um I won't say names, but like this person genuinely came to me and was like, I don't know if I can finish this said race that we're going to do. And they had a coach. So I was like, talk to your coach. Like, what do like tell them what happened and what went wrong. And then made some adjustments. And when this person got to the start line, was absolutely stoked and ready to go.
Yep.
So had a rough-ish experience, but really sat down and realized like, oh, I was struggling with A, B, and C. I need to reassess those. Like you mentioned, giving yourself enough time between the training camp and the race. It's so important because you need to build up the confidence, get yourself ready. So, like I've never had a bad experience as well, and I hope to not to. But at the end of the day, we do all of this training to learn and to make realizations on what we need to adjust and get better at, and nothing happens overnight. But it's there, it's really important to do stuff like that in the sense of hitting a nice training camp. It doesn't have to be actually on course, but if you can, it's super important. And I have to give you this example. We both know the athlete, but Iris right now is out at
Mammoth.
Mammoth doing a
Yeah.
training camp. And she's obviously running a Mammoth later this year. And she went out to the first trailhead that she was going to go to, it was thundering buckets, and she was supposed to go run like a ridge line. And so she wrote me immediately and was like, hey, it's storming, I don't know what to do, I think we're just going to call it, I'm going to go home, I'm going to see if I can do like another area or whatever the case may be. So I wrote her back and was like, yes, like, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this, but if you can, find another thing. And she did. Before I even like responded back to her, she was already on her way to a different trailhead, went and hit a different trail, still on the course. So like, training camps also show you how to adapt and overcome. And she did that like completely without me doing anything. And it's just like those, like she even told me in a message she sent me, she's like, I was super bummed I didn't get to run my, section. She's like, but it's like an ultra, like things happened, I had to adjust. And she went to a different trailhead. And it's just, little things like that that just keep reminding you like, yes, I can do this. I had to adjust and overcome, there was a crazy storm. And that's what all of this is about. It's those little wins and or adjustments and things that we do in training just to make us feel as ready as possible.
Yeah, for sure. And, if you can't, like, troubleshooting is part of ultras, like you said, and you might as well just start practicing that now. And that's part of like in your long runs, something's going to go wrong in your long runs. And if you just give up and go home, then you didn't get that opportunity to practice that for your race.
Oh, for sure. And I will say this, like, and I told Iris this as well. I said, listen, I must tell you this, and I'm not trying to sound like an asshole. So many people would have just gone home.
Yeah.
Like, because this was her short run. Like it was supposed to be like a shorter run, still pretty verty. And she has a big run today and a big run tomorrow. So like in the grand scheme of it, that run is not as important. You know what I mean? If you think about it. But I immediately was like, I am so proud of you for not going home. Like you figured it out, you adjusted, and genuinely just so proud. So it's, it says a lot about a runner, and just super proud of her for that.
For sure. We love Iris. She's awesome.
She's the best.
So going back to a little bit of your training, because you hit on this briefly, but talk about your strength training because, I'm obviously a strength coach. I coach for endurance athletes, and I've been strength training for many years. Love strength training. I wish I was lifting right now, but anyways, you coming back to strength training, I've been so pumped for you, obviously as somebody who loves it. So talk a little bit about what that's been like for you.
Yes. So Christy and I do geek out about this with the talk of strength because I don't know, I think a lot of people know this, but in my younger years, I played sports all my life, super, super active. And one of the funny, like, I will always remember this story. When I was getting ready to move to Florida, I have a sister, half sister, her name's Heather. And I went to her house, we were hanging out, and she's like, are you excited to leave? And I genuinely looked at her and I was like, no. She's like, well, why? And I was like, I don't want to like get unfit and become lazy. And she's like, what? That's what you're worried about? I'm like, yeah, like it's going to be a whole new place. I won't have a gym to go to. And, like it's so crazy. But, I immediately got into the gym and had no clue what I was doing when I was probably 18, 19 and just kind of did my own thing. But around 2021, like I got really serious into weightlifting and did like the whole bro bodybuilder workout for years, probably like 7, 8 years. And did like during COVID, couldn't think it was called. I was like, that horrible thing that destroyed our lives for a couple years. But when COVID happened, everything closed down. And luckily, my sister worked at a gym and her owner was very gracious. They brought some weights home and they let me work out in the garage. I was living with my sister. So like I did more of like a CrossFit style workout then because I was very limited. But I've always kind of worked out, but I had that like bro bodybuilder. I, was never like super jacked. I never did anything crazy, but I just felt solid. I loved it. I loved it. But then when I got into the CrossFit type thing, I didn't love it as much. And then I got into biking, then got into running, and like end of story. I didn't really work out that much. I didn't lift as much. So in training for the 200, honestly, I just didn't have the time. So like it was so overwhelming. I was still working a part-time, full-time job. I started working at Everyday Ultra, and that became like more of a job. And then I was still coaching as well. So like just so much on my plate. Strength training went out the door. Stopped doing it. Wasn't doing it much. And when I got injured, I really was like, I need to find some love in something. It can be biking. It can be lifting. I need it to be something though, because I couldn't run. Tried biking and it wasn't biking. So I really started to dive into lifting, but I'm sure anyone that listens that has lifted before and then stopped and then came back, like I was so fucking weak that like it was humiliating for me to be trying to lift again, that it was very just unsettling. It wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it as much. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I don't love this, but I need to keep doing it. It's keeping me sane. So I did continue. And now I've never lifted this much and never ran this much. But I've been feeling great. And Chrissy knows this. I've talked to her quite a bit about it because I don't do the typical runner style lift. I'm still broing it out because I love a good bro split. I love a good bro lift. Um, but I do gear it a little bit towards running. So like leg days, I was maintaining twice a week, but now it's kind of like one in a mobility type PT type workout. So one is still heavy leg day, and then I do like more mobility and PT work for the other day. But that one leg day is very run specific. It's not like a bro. I do squat, yes, but like I'm working on different muscles to try to become stronger. And I've felt so much growth in it. And it just makes me, obviously I've fallen back in love with lifting and I don't think I'll give it up, but it's just completely different on how I've been training recently. So like my running volume is not as high. I don't typically do high running volume anyway, but I'm training both lifting and running and managing it well as of right now. But yeah, that's kind of been the journey and I've loved it. I'm sadly gym bro douche, but I have no shame and I enjoy it. So it's been going really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm going to hold you to keeping your lifting going because every time I coach an athlete, I always tell them like, listen, we're going to move to a maintenance phase in your peak weeks of training, especially for a 100 miler where your volume is going to be higher, because I want you to keep lifting versus just letting it drop off. Like if we can shorten those, make them less intense, whatever we got to do to get them in, like I'm going to hold you to it.
Yeah. And I need that. So it's good. And I've already kind of adapted with like I did the 50K on the treadmill and I was like, I need to adjust some, like I don't need to be lifting heavy right now. Like it's not that important. But I'm trying to still lift heavy during some of the peak of training, but I also am just being smart and adjusting accordingly and really listening to my body. But yeah, I know at one point, honestly, in a couple weeks, where I'll probably just go to more maintenance of just consistently lifting, hopefully changing up in the sense of like not going to the gym as long because I do have to travel to and from the gym. I don't have a gym at the house. But just saving a little bit more time to get some more time here and there for the running.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, and it's so true. And we don't really talk too much about this, but like you have to balance the running and the lifting. And there's going to be moments where you have lower run volume where you can lift a lot more, you can lift a lot heavier, there's not as much stress and compound on the body. And then there's other moments where your run volume is going to be so high, but you don't need that lifting to be as important. It's a consistent juggle.
Yeah, and I'll add to that it's not always the same year after year. For example, last year I trained for two 100 milers, so I got more adapted to running even higher volume than what I had in the past training for these 100 milers over, a longer period of time. So going into this year, I noticed that I could actually do more lifting because I had adapted to higher volume training of running. So year after year, you have to kind of assess it and see what can I handle now. And to go into that as well, maybe your life stress is higher, through a different phase as well. So maybe you got to back off, even though your body's ready. But if your life stress is compounding onto that, sometimes you got to pull the plug a little bit.
Oh yeah. And I think it's so important for people to really realize like the life stress that you deal with is, very specific to you personally. Like a great example, like two different people, one being a parent, one not being a parent, one having a very stressful job, one having a low key, super kind of chill job. Like their stressors in life is going to be completely different where, you want to manage the load and the intensity or the heaviness of things when training because it genuinely will wreck you. You know what I mean? And one year it could be a super chill, easy year. And then the next year it could be super hard and super crazy. And, you don't know what the heck is going on and you don't know what day of the week it is. But, it's all about managing stuff like that. And it's inconsistent, as bad as that may sound.
Yeah, it's part of the puzzle.
For sure. And it's forever changing. But us as runners, I think something to always remember is we're always growing. Yes, it may not look very linear at the time. And yes, you're going to have moments where it's not, it's maybe going up, going up, going up. And then all of a sudden, like it's super stressful and life is just crap and it's going to be plateaued for a little bit. But in the grand scheme, if you take a step back, there's always growth if you're doing it the right, which majority of us are. Majority of us are.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. Very cool. So do you want to kind of go a little more in depth about, like, we kind of talked about me training a little bit more on the treadmill and you're being outside. Do you have any concerns? Because like you don't have a quote unquote mountain. You know what I mean? Are you concerned at all about the vert or anything like this for this 100 miler?
I'm more concerned about the technicality of the trail versus the vertical game, because I can run the same 4 miles over and over and get the foot per mile that I need to match the course, but it's not quite as technical.
Mm.
So that's my only, like, just because you can't run on technical trails doesn't mean you can't do technical races. I just know that that's one of my weaknesses, so I'd really like to improve that. And I do have some options for more technical trail. It's just every time I've gone to them, I've either gotten poison ivy, gotten stung aggressively, or saw a rattlesnake. So I'm kind of like, I don't want to go there if I don't have to, but we'll see. Once we do the training camp, that's probably what I'll do, is assess, how far off am I really? And like, am I doing better than I thought I was, or am I doing worse? And then basically just adjusting in those last couple weeks.
Yeah. And I will say, like, that's the one thing that I am kind of scared about as well, is the technicality, because very, very similar. I have there's none, maybe if I went up like Central Florida, I could find something a little more technical, but I am banking on this training camp. And I will tell you, I think something I've done a lot with, it's because of my ankle injury, is just really working on like trying to get like stability muscles as welly as welly, that's just such a great word, but as ready, I can't even think the word I'm freaking looking for, but like I'm just trying to build them as strong as I possibly can, because low key, like, just really worried about the ankle, but I know it's going to help me for the technicality out there. Mind you, it doesn't get me ready for it, but I'm hoping it will help me as much as I can possibly do.
Yeah, and I'll say that probably my biggest weakness overall going into the race is going to be doing better at hydration. This is
Mm.
basically a lifelong issue for me, where it's not that like I hydrate great. Don't get me wrong, like I'm drinking. It's just I have a moderate sweat rate, but I am a severely see, now you're messing me up. I'm severely salty sweater. So I have to consume quite a bit of sodium, and I feel like it's pretty important for me as far as like performance goes, because if you're off on your hydration, it is like you could withstand a certain amount of dehydration, but at a certain point it's going to affect your performance. And if you start thinking about that over 30-ish hours, it's a pretty big thing. So my focus in training has been finding different ways to consume sodium and to force myself to drink more. And it's funny because I don't have like an aversion to drinking or anything. It's just, I think from all of my years of mountain biking, where you can't necessarily drink when you want to because you got to take your hand off the bars, that it's almost like it's been ingrained into my brain. So I'm trying to retrain myself to just drink all the time and carry more water than I need, just to, kind of make it more obvious to me. But this is gonna be so funny. I haven't told you this yet. I'm experimenting with adding sodium citrate to like tailwind, because they're gonna have tailwind on course. So I've been adding more sodium citrate to tailwind. And if you don't know, sodium citrate is not the same as table salt. It tastes a little less salty. So I think it's a little bit easier to put more of it in and not feel like I'm drinking a bunch of salt, especially if you're putting into something like very sweet, like tailwind. So
Mhm.
if this strategy works well, it means I'm going to be carrying a bunch of like, I want to get like small little jewelry bags and put sodium citrate in them, and I'll be dumping them in at the aid stations. So it's going to look like I'm probably trying to drink some narcotics or something out there.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do for these races. But I will say, it's funny. This is another topic that like you have low key been working on behind the scenes, but I have as well. I got the H drop. You recommended me to get the H drop, but I was beforehand playing with my sodium and hydration intake, because I kind of felt like I was missing out on something and wasn't too sure. I am a firm believer in all the sodium that you possibly can take within reason of like not overdoing it. But your girl was overdoing it with kind of intention, because I wanted to see what the limit was for me. And I don't want to dive into that, right? That's a whole nother topic to
Yeah,
talk about. But I will say, like, same, been working on it. I'm feeling really, really good on mine. I finally kind of feel like I have it dialed in. And we were just talking about this before the podcast, but I am drinking more liquids than I ever have and way more sodium than I ever had. Haven't been shitting myself and haven't been peeing a whole bunch. So I'd say that's a win-win for me.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I hope to get there.
Yeah. We will get you there. We will get you there. Yeah. But it's crazy how, like, even though like we do talk all the time, but like we still don't talk about everything all the time. And like you've been working on that, I've been working on that. And I know we've talked about it off air before, but it's something as us as runners, like we're always trying to be a little bit better and trying to figure things out. And I don't think that's ever going to change. And it's going to be a never ending try to figure out everything as best as we possibly can. So,
And
uh,
different things come up through science. Like, for example, from the Tour de France this year, the hot topic was the lactate gel. So are we going to be trying to use lactate next year? Who knows? I don't want to pay $6 per gel, but we'll see.
yeah. And the more ultra running is becoming famous and like all over, I mean, it's all over social media, but I know I'm like in a bubble, you're in a bubble. We're all in this bubble of ultra running. It's not always like that for everyone else, but it is becoming bigger and bigger. And I think they'll put a lot more money into research and doing research, which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool. So is there any topic that you specifically want to talk about that I haven't asked you?
I want to talk a little bit about self-coaching because
Okay.
you've been doing it longer than I
Mm.
have. I'm now, I guess maybe 8 months, no, five. Yeah, I'm 5 months in, barely.
Hmm.
So, it kind of, you mentioned it before, how we spend a lot of times asking ourselves if we're just being a little bitch because we're questioning the workout that we prescribe to ourselves. And, ultimately what the situation is that I discovered is, the coach version of me sets at the computer and creates the training for the week, and she's looking at what I did, the previous weeks, and then it's like, okay, this is the progression you should be following, and I would prescribe this to anybody following this progression. But I think part of the problem is that the coach knows the athlete very, very well, the athlete version of me, obviously, because it's the same person, hopefully. But both these people live in my brain. And so coach me sets down, makes the plan, but then athlete me is the one who does the runs. And they're both separate at those times. Like, they're not there together for some reason. And when I'm on the run, the athlete version of me is cursing out, the coach version of me. And what's funny is I also second guess myself on the run. Whereas when Joe coached me, the plan, saying that, like, I followed the plan, but going back to that caveat where sometimes when you shouldn't follow the plan. But if Joe gave me a workout that I'm ready for, let's do it, I would never question how much time at intensity or how many intervals he gave me. It's like, this is the progression Joe is saying I should do, so I'm going to do it. Whereas when it's me doing it, it's like, why did I give myself this many intervals? This was a terrible idea. Am I pushing myself too hard? Like, just questioning every single bit of it. And I had a realization on one of my runs, because I started like thinking, like, just, my guideline is, if I'm ever feeling a little bit off, I will say, well, let's just, do the warm up. And then after I do the warm up, it's like, okay, well, let's just do the first interval and see how it goes. And then, assess from there. So I start realizing that I'm finally figuring out how to bring the coach version of me on my runs with me. And she's the one who's telling me, just make it through this first interval, and see how you feel, essentially. Whereas when I do that, I find the athlete version of me isn't questioning as much, because it's like I'm actually coaching myself, like through the run, so that's been kind of eye-opening in a way, where I find I question myself less whenever I'm able to bring her into the run a little bit more and just let her actually coach the athlete version of me. I sound like a crazy person.
Yeah.
That's 2 podcasts in a row that I'm talking about doing crazy things like staring at trees, questioning if they're real. Now I'm talking about having a split personality. I'm going to be, someone's going to put me in an institute at this rate.
Yeah, I may have to give someone a call. But
Yeah.
as someone who's literally self-coaching and experiencing the same thing, like, it makes so much sense to me, because I'm the same way. Like, when I sit down and I program, I look at my history, I look at all of the data, and I'm like, okay, this is next week for her. And then I go run and I'm like, why did I do this? Like, I could just do this. And if I do this, and I'm trying to like adjust my runs in my head, and I'm like, why I was thinking about this today as I'm out there running. And I told Christy, like, I'm running 2 hours for the next 3 days. So 2 hour long run, 2 hour long run, 2 hour long run. And while I'm out there, I'm like, is this enough though? Like, what, like, maybe I should do like 2.5 today. I'm outside, I'm out at Celery. Like, it's nice. It's really hot, but like, I have the time, and then I'm like, no, stick to the freaking plan, Liz. Like, you put 2 hours, you're going to do 2 hours tomorrow and you're going to do 2 hours Sunday. Like, it is so hard to not have that like contemplation in your head. But I need to take a step back. I need to bring Coach Liz with me when I'm out there.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
the advantage that I kind of see is, okay, I'm two different people in my brain, and use that to your advantage. So when I'm the athlete version of myself, it's kind of like, I can't change. Obviously I can change the plan, and like I said, there's that nuance that there are times where you should,
Mhm.
but it's like, this is what was prescribed. If I feel good, all of my, my recovery, my sleep, all this stuff's in check. There's no reason like that I should not be executing the workout. It's like, just do the workout.
Yeah. Well, and I think you can say this as well. And I know like you and I have always been really consistent in training. We love training. It's super easy to be consistent for us. But there's been moments when I did work with Joe where something would happen and I would either not finish my run or have a really shitty run and like cut it short or whatever the case may be. And I would tell him, and he was never like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you didn't do that." He's just like, "No, you did the right thing." So it's, even though we freaking know better and we say the same things to our own athletes, we're
Yeah.
just like the biggest hypocrite to ourselves, I guess. I don't know. It's horrible.
Yeah, and a part of it is sometimes I'll tell people, because if somebody's being hard on themselves like excessively, I'll tell them, like, talk to yourself like you would talk to a friend. Because
Mm,
if your friend was like, I slept for 2 hours and I skipped my run, you wouldn't be like, you piece of shit, I can't believe you. You would say, oh, I hope you get some, rest tonight, get some recovery, all that good stuff. But when we're talking to ourselves, we're so mean to ourselves.
oh my goodness, yeah. I will be 100% honest. I have to tell myself all the time, would you really say that to someone else?
Yeah.
Like, because I will say something about myself or like I'm talking to myself, and I always am like, I need to take a step back. Like, would I say this to someone else? And majority of the time, I'm like, no, I wouldn't fucking say that to someone else. Like, go, like, stop being, I am my biggest enemy in my own head at times. But I think a lot of us are, and we're all struggling with it almost day to day.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So that's been my revelation with self-coaching, is just trying to, like, literally realize, like, there's the athlete and the coach, and finding the conflict between the two, and trying not to let part of me question myself, and also trying not to get put in an institute having these conversations.
Yeah, please. Christy is actually okay. We're just, talking about training and how hard it can be sometimes. But no, it really does make sense. And I think people can relate, even if they have a coach or are doing anything, like they might be thinking in a different sense of like, well, I don't want to have to tell my coach this because of this, and this, but at the same time, like, A, that's what they're there for. But also I've never experienced, and I know 100% everybody on the Everyday Ultra team, no one would ever shame another person for cutting a run short because life has been crazy or anything of that nature. And if any coach would, fuck them.
Yeah. I remember one time when Joe was coaching me that I had a long run, and I went and did it, and I was just, something was off, and like nothing that I could pinpoint, but I decided to cut it short, and I had another long run the next day. And so, that was of the length that I completed. So I just kind of swapped them, and it wasn't that big a deal. And because the next day I felt way better, and I was like, cool.
Yeah. And I remember, I'll never forget this. There was a crazy hurricane that came through. Funny enough. And I had to go run the next day, and I'm out running and just not in a good mood, like just had to deal with all the stress and annoyance of a hurricane. And I had a really long run, but it was like, for me, I was like, I just want to do it. Like, I want to get out of the house. Like, I was just stuck in the house for 2 days and my legs just didn't have it in me. So I walked majority of that run. And for me, that was really hard. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm not running. Like, this doesn't even freaking count. But I honestly just needed to get out there. And I remember writing Joe and just saying, hey, like, there's just, the hurricane, this and that. And he's like, I didn't expect you to run today. And I was like, oh, okay. So it's just like that crazy, like we genuinely sometimes overthink and overcomplicate things way too much.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fun experiment though. Like, that's been my favorite thing about self-coaching. Even though, like, maybe I don't always make the best decisions, I learn from everything that I do, and that's what's exciting about it.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I know you are going to get a coach for when you go have a 200. Completely
Yeah.
understandable. We won't mention like who or anything. We can kind of talk about that different. But you, after you do your 200, do you think you'll go back to self coaching?
Probably, and I've actually already thought about this. I'm super excited for the person who's going to coach me, what I'm going to learn from that person, and like it may depend on that experience. I will say that I'm a huge fan that coaches need coaches, and
Mhm.
I would honestly love to have a coach, but maybe see, I have to like kind of like look at them and and think like which one do I like better? Do I like the experiment of coaching myself? I actually really like it outside of questioning myself, which I think I'm improving on, versus like having someone to coach me. Because when somebody else coaches me as a coach, like I love learning from that coach. But also too, it's very nice to, even though you can do it yourself, offloading that stress to somebody else. Because a lot, and you'll find a lot of coaches will tell you like they're like, I will do whatever. I just want somebody else to tell me what to do and I'll do it, even though I know how. There is a huge stress reduction on that for sure. But I don't know. Right now, I'm not planning to. But if that experience goes a certain way and maybe I want to, I would definitely still consider it. What about you? Would you ever decide to go back?
So I think you know this, but maybe not. Before I ever started working with Joe and having him be my coach, I was like on the fence about getting coached for the longest time. I had a coach, a good friend of mine. She helped coach me for a marathon, but before that, like I never really had any coaches aside from playing sports. And it's not because I always thought I knew anything, but I am not smart by any means. And so for me, when I was like learning, I did a whole bunch of research and learned as much as I possibly could. So I liked that, you know, and then finally dug in, got a coach, no regrets, so happy. I learned 10 times faster, right? Um, and now that I'm self coaching, I love the experiments. Like, I love doing all of that. I love doing some research, especially like chatting with you and other coaches about like, oh, this and this, and what do you think about this? But there's a low key part of me that kind of wants another coach.
Yeah.
I don't know who, and I haven't like looked into it, but I just remember how much growth I had as a coach. And I'm forever a learner. I want to, you know, learn as much as possible. So I'm open to it if I found someone, if that makes any sense. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like if someone came into my life and I was like, I could learn a lot from you, I think I'd be down in a heartbeat. Obviously, like when not in a training block up for a race or anything like that. And it may depend on what I decide to do next year too. But I do genuinely enjoy the experimentation with coaching myself right now. So as of right now, like I am 100% okay with that. But I am a firm believer too that like coaches should have coaches, and it's just more for the general growth of that human.
Yeah, and for example, like me training for this 200 miler, the main like I would have a coach for this regardless. If the person that I asked to coach me said no, I would find somebody else. And it's not because honestly, I believe I could coach myself through a 200 miler, not ever done one. Like I could do the research, I would ask people. I've got, great resources at Everyday Ultra. Everybody has done 200 milers around
Mhm.
here. But I think I could do it myself, but I don't know, you get such a different perspective, I feel like, when you let somebody else, like, just do it, and you're like you can kinda and they'll let you, like, question them too and be like, "So why did you decide to do this instead of this?" And it's such a great way to learn for sure.
Oh yeah, and you know, it's just such a great way to get someone else's point of view and how they coach, and maybe intertwine it with yours, or be like, I'm never going to do that to someone else. And not saying
Yep.
it's because of a bad way they coach, but just a different point of view that you don't enjoy. So yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, and I've had both those experiences too. Like I've had a lot of coaches like just in different like cycling, nutrition, like all the stuff. So I've had some interesting experiences across the board, and it is a great way to learn. Like I did not like this, so I'm not going to do that to my athletes, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. And one thing I'll say too, like since we brought up my 200 miler, you mentioned it on a previous podcast where you were kind of updating your life that you're going to be pacing me for 100 miles at my 200 miler. It's an interesting 200 miler where that's an option. Liz can do 100 mile. She does the last 100 miles with me, and she gets a buckle. And I realized something that it might be interesting if you and I have a bad experience together at no business. You could do another 100 with me. So it's like, if this doesn't work out, I don't know how that's going to go. It's going to be even worse because I'll be, at mile 150 when you're only at mile 50.
I I didn't even think of it, to be 100% honest. But the funny thing is we're just gonna have to fuck around and find out, to be 100% honest. But honestly, I don't foresee it being bad. And if it if anything, like, I think I should be, hopefully, in such a good place that, like, I'm just gonna be like, "Listen, girl, we just gotta keep going. It's fine. Just keep going." But, yeah, that's interesting.
I do want to say one more thing on that is if you've never been paced by a coach before, it's a different experience than just having a friend pace you. So I've been paced by Joe paced me for Leadville, and Joe, like, I'll say this and Joe will not take credit for it, but Joe's a big reason why I was able to finish Leadville because of the way he paced me and pushed me. And I've paced athletes and I've done the same to them where it's like, you're not quitting, let's go. So I'm low key terrified of having you pace me for 100 miles in my first 200 miler because I know you're going to be absolutely brutal to me. You're going to
I
kick
will
my ass all
I will
across.
try my hardest to be a little sensitive during that. And honestly, I will tell you, like, one thing I've been, like, in the back of my mind thinking about is, like, Liz, remember how much you struggled for that last 40 miles? And I had Kirk out there with me, and me and Kirk didn't know each other very well. He learned a lot about me during that time point. But I will say, like, I am so grateful to have him, even if I was a miserable son of a bitch during that. Like, there was no point that I ever thought like, "Oh, I can't believe he's here." I just kept thinking like, "I can't believe he's seeing me like this." So I'm going to tell you right now on this podcast, Christy, I'm going to see the depths of your soul during that. And it's fine. Like, I'm there for it. I'm no judgment. I'm just going to tell you to suck it the fuck up and to keep going.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. You might actually see it at No Business. So be prepared to see it twice.
That's true. There's a good chance you're going to see it as well at No Business.
Yeah. I hope I don't
Oh,
see the depths of your soul at Southern because then there's a real problem.
no, yeah, I anticipate to hide every ounce of any bit of sadness, or not sadness, but like, pain, misery, and you will just see sunshine and rainbows the entire time.
Good. Actually, I do want you to be a little bit mean to me. Like maybe read Can't Hurt Me before we go out there, just to, like, brush up on, like, tell me to like carry some boats or something.
Listen, there will be a time and a place for it all, and I've my entire life I've always been told you're kind of mean. Like, you say
Yeah,
things a little too blunt. So it's coming, whether I want to admit it or not. It's coming.
we're gonna get in a fight. And I mean a fist fight.
Could you imagine them being like, "Did you guys hear on the trail at Southern? This girl Liz and Christy just started going at it."
I can't, like, I honestly, like, I'm very excited for No Business. I'm also very excited for Southern States because there's going to be a lot. We've got a lot of people we know that's going to be there, and it's going to be such a vibe for sure. I can't
Oh
wait
my
for it.
goodness, yeah. Yeah, there essentially is going to be like 6 to probably 8 of us out there.
Yeah.
And yeah, all having a good time. Oh, it's going to be so crazy, but it's going to be a blast. And
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll do a training camp for that as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy, crazy. All right, anything else that you can think of? Not Southern, but No Business talk.
No, let's go back to No Business. I'm very excited about No Business. I can't wait for it. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah. I don't think we'll get into a fist fight at No Business. I don't think anything crazy is going to happen other than like maybe each of us realizing we're little bitches a little bit out there on the course, but all within good reason.
Yeah. I was thinking that, your motto is always telling people, or your mantra is telling people, like, you're a bad bitch. And we're going to be out there for like the first, like, maybe 70 miles calling each other bad bitches. And then we're both going to get to this point where we're just sad bitches.
Oh my gosh. So hopefully she is not listening. And if you are, Kristen, I'm so sorry because I'm about to tell everyone a little bit of tea. So Kristen's been having a rough time at work. And I kept telling her, like, listen, you're a bad bitch. You're a bad bitch. Like, you're fine. Like, you're doing great. You're just a bad bitch. And she wrote me and it's just like, I think I'm just a sad bad bitch. And I was like, you're a sad bad bitch. That's fine. So hearing you say that, that's what we're going to say for the last 40 miles at No Business for sure.
Yeah. I can't wait. Like, the main thing I'm curious about with our No Business experience of us doing this together is what the rallying is going to be like. Like, like, you're going to hit a low in a 100 miler. Like, it's going to happen. So I'm not really concerned about what the low is going to be like. I'm curious what our highs are going to be like post the lows, because like how after you've been in a low, the high feels really high.
Yeah.
If that happens at the same time for us, we're going to just, like, I don't know, we're like gonna be like the Kool-Aid man, or like rip through a wall or something.
Oh yeah. Literally, oh yeah. But
Yeah.
I am so excited as well. And last question I'll ask: do you have a playlist working for No Business yet?
Listen, and maybe this is, not the way to do this. I've done this for every 100 miler I've done. I have one playlist that I just keep adding all my favorite songs to, and then I shuffle it. So literally, you're going to get like a different, completely genre from song to song. And that's just what I go with.
Okay, okay. So that's kind of similar to me. When I ran across Florida, I needed a playlist that was at least 70 hours long. So it is, and now it's even longer because of all the music. But I've been recently like feeling a type of music, and so like I made a new playlist that I think is going to be my playlist for new business, no business. But I traditionally just always go to my Across Florida playlist that I had from way back when. But we'll
Yeah.
see, we'll see. But I do have a song for us, and it will be played during that race for sure.
Awesome.
I won't tell you what it is though. I'll just randomly rip it out.
Okay, cool. Is it a song I've ever heard before?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think I probably might have told you about this song.
I think you might have.
Yep, I know what song it is.
That one's like number one, but I do
Yeah.
have other songs as well. But yeah, that one for sure.
Is this playlist called like the Bad Bitch Anthems?
I maybe I need to change it, but it's just called My Vibe because it's just been like my vibe recently. It's been how I've been feeling, and like I hear the music, and I'm like, and it's not bad bitch music. It's not like that hype. So I'm low key a little sad to admit that, but it's just been genuinely like my vibe feeling recently. But maybe I do need to make my bad bitch playlist for the race.
We probably need to make a Bad Bitch playlist for when we're both in a bad spot because that's gonna like it's like okay, we both suck, we can't talk each other out of this, let's just put on the music and let the
Yeah.
music do the work.
All right, so we need to make a playlist and just share it to each other so we can do that because that
Yeah.
will be definitely something I see us doing for sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. Well, as always, appreciate you being on the podcast. We will have probably another one. Who knows? You and I talk so much. We're gonna have like a million of them, so we're just gonna keep them rolling. Christy is now a part of the tribe of runners, and she's just always gonna be part of it. So suck. She's a great co-host, and everyone loves our podcasts. So
Yeah, I'm here for it.
awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again, Christy.